5 years ago, would you have guessed you'd be where you are now? I definitely didn't. Let me explain. Have you ever heard of Moses? The 10 plagues, parting of the Red Sea, the 10 commandments? Yeah, that Moses. The man who led God's people out of Egypt, then through the wilderness to the entrance of the promised land. Now Moses, he was a leader. He followed God's direction, even though a lot of the time, it didn't seem to make much sense. The people, they admired him. They looked to him for answers. And everyone was grateful that it was his job and not theirs, including me. You see, I was part of Moses' inner circle, so to speak. I was one of the 10 spies that he sent to scout out the land. That's why when the Israelites confronted Moses or complained about not having enough, I stood behind them. I'd seen enough to know how close Moses was to God, to see what God was capable of doing. After all the time I spent learning from Moses, I shouldn't have been surprised when he took me aside and told me that God wanted me to become Israel's next leader. Somehow I was surprised. I never pictured this journey without Moses. He'd been with us since the beginning. After all the amazing things he'd done, I didn't know how I was going to follow it up. I guess you could say I had some pretty big sandals to fill. But the biggest surprise was how God viewed me. A man with a spirit of leadership, he said. Me, a leader. I didn't think so. At least not like Moses. I followed Moses. I looked up to him. I wasn't sure I had what it took to lead an entire nation. But then Moses wasn't sure that he was leadership material either. He even argued with God about it. But God gave him the ability anyway. And he never left him, not once. God didn't choose Moses because he was already a great leader. He gave Moses the strength and the courage to become a great leader. And me, I trusted God with my life. I realized then and there that I needed to trust God with the rest of it, even if I didn't think I was up for the job. God knew my fears and doubts. His first words to me as a leader were to be strong and courageous. He told me not to be afraid. He would be with me. And every time that God gives me direction, He repeats that promise. Be strong and courageous. I will be with you. I didn't have to accept the job. I could have stepped back and let God choose someone else. But God gave me the ability to do what He asked me to do. Through God's strength, I became the leader that the Israelites needed to face opposing armies, to face their fears, and to thrive in the land that God promised them generations ago. Because I trusted God to lead me, I became someone God trusted to lead others.